Episode number 1. Welcome to the Building Thriving Lifestyles podcast. I'm your host, Eik Gilladottir, and I love how growing better humans by challenging myself and others, physically, mentally, and spiritually. On today's episode, we are going to talk about doing new things, and may I add, doing new scary things. This podcast is brought to you by Barbells. They are the most delicious protein bar that make it so easy for me to hit my protein targets throughout the day. And they make it easy because I can be indulging in a sweet afternoon pick-me-up while I grab a cup of coffee. And it just kind of complete that sugary craving that I might be having at that time of the day. You can find barbells pretty much everywhere these days in both supermarkets, but you can also stock up if you go to Amazon. You can stock up on big boxes of barbells, and you can also grab a single bar with you next time you're at Starbucks or at any convenience store or grocery store. So, reason why we're going to talk about new things is because new things. I am starting this podcast, and I just wanted to let you know, in case you are starting anything new in your life, that it's completely normal to feel like this is super scary and, have all kinds of feelings about it and find it hard to start new things. So after running my blog on fitwithegg.com or buildingthrivinglifestyles.com, it's the one on the same website. I've been running a blog there for 3 years, but I decided that I wanted new ways to share some of these mutual findings that I found for my own journey and for my clients' journey. And now it's time to expand and start sharing content like this, okay? So I'm sitting here and I'm sweating. My heart is racing. Like if I feel like I need to check what my heart rate actually is. Let's go. We're sitting here. Yeah, heart rate of 86 from just sitting and talking in front of the camera, because I've actually been thinking about starting this podcast for about 2 years. I've procrastinating this for a very, very long time. My family, they gave me a lump sum of money to buy a microphone Christmas 2020 because I expressed that I wanted to start the podcast. Here we are, we're October 2022. So I took, 2 years and a little bit, almost 3 years before I actually started taking action on this. And it's because new things are scary. Here's what I found. It's completely normal that new things are scary. And it's kind of weird, but there are like 3 main things that I found that make new things scary. And some of it are within our control and some of them are not. And this is partially due to how we're wired, like brain chemistry and so on. But then also we have some kind of mindset blockage, a little bit of imposter syndrome and other things that kind of limit us. So one of the reasons why this is super scary is because we have a function in our brain that's meant to keep us safe. So everyone knows that when we start doing new things, our brain kind of overfloods and fills with self-doubt. You may recognize this from trying to go to the gym. You're like, I'm going to make this plan. I'm going to go to the gym. But then when it comes to that time, it's 4:30 and you plan to go to the gym at 5, your brain floods with like doubt, all kinds of possible scenarios like, oh, I'm going to get injured, this is going to happen. We just start overthinking things. And this function is actually meant to keep us safe, believe it or not. Yeah. Not super helpful when we're trying to make changes, but they kind of keep us in the same routine, make the recognizable feel safe to us, and anything that's new feel unsafe, threatening, and potentially dangerous. So that's one reason. Another reason is because many of us, we suffer from a little bit of perfectionism. Yeah, we want to do it all from the very beginning. And being a beginner at something is very scary for many people. That means taking a step back. If you're trying to learn a language, it means that you're going to sound like a 3-year-old for a certain amount of time. We can't be perfect and really good at everything from the very beginning. So, like I said, speaking a new language, sound like a 3-year-old. You might have an accent on your third language, like I do, that might be stopping you from wanting to share anything that you're speaking. And maybe if you're trying to start a running or a new training routine, you have to admit that you are weaker than your best friend. You're going to go through some trial and error with your training. One client that just started running the other day, they had these like incidences of like really needing to go to the bathroom once they were out on their run. So for the first like week or so, they were unable to complete their structured sessions because we have these like beginner things and we're not as good as we want to be, and that feels really scary for many people. Another thing that is overlooked is that, you know, our idols, the other people, they're doing it perfectly. So you look at your friend and they are running marathons and you're like, how and why can't I just go and run 3K? Like, why can't I do that? They're running 42. So for me personally with this podcast, I look up to my idols. I listen to quite a bit of podcasts myself and I'm like, wow, they have like the perfect lighting. They have beautiful recording quality and their editing is so smooth. They also have like all these sponsors and affiliates that are lined up to help them monetize their podcast. And they also have like a significant, like very intricate marketing plan. And I have to say, overwhelm is like everywhere. I'm like, how do I even start? And I want to do it well from the beginning, so it feels scary to start. The third reason for new things to be scary is that you are putting yourself out there. Whether you're trying to adapt a new skill, learn a language, make a podcast, start a new exercise routine, you are actually putting yourself out there. And that is super scary. Being vulnerable, letting other people see that you're actually trying, fills us with these thoughts like, what if I fail? What if I actually try and I can't do it? Like, what does that say about me? So if you're trying to lose weight, if you commit to a nutrition plan and you tell everyone about it, but then 6 months later you haven't lost any weight, what does that say about you? You get scared that says something about who you are as a person, but I'm here to tell you it's not that. If you start a new gym routine and you can't perform the way that you want, you don't get stronger, all these things, that fear of failure is sometimes what limits us from actually starting. So my fear when I started this podcast is, what if I actually fail? What if just my mom and my boyfriend end up listening to this and no one subscribes to it and they hate it? Like, what does that actually say about me as a person? So that's my big fear of failure. So what's the lesson here? Well, the lesson is that new things are super scary and we have to kind of overcome it and fight with ourselves a bit in order to make things happen. Sometimes this means that we're going to break things down and talk to ourselves like a 3-year-old, okay? So if you had a 3-year-old that doesn't want to go to kindergarten from their nursery, what would you do? It's not like you would sit them down, you would shout at them and tell them they have to be perfect on day one. It's not like you would expect them to be friends with everyone from the very beginning or to have mastered their potty training in one day. No, you would treat them with kindness. You would talk them through the changes that were incoming. They're no longer going to be with the same nursery teachers that they used to be. You're going to talk them through what their day is going to look like. And any parent that has gone through this, any sibling on the sideline will know that you only leave them there for a couple of hours the first day, maybe only an hour. Maybe they cry the entire time and you pick them up early. Then you do it again and again and again. And then you leave them for half a day and a full day after adjustment time. And you kind of guide them through. You also know that you're going to have to cuddle them a little bit extra. There might be some sickness and runny nose involved when their immune systems are adapting. But the bottom line here is like, whether you have a kid or not, or whether you've done this transition period into kindergarten or not, you kind of have to think about yourself in the same way. We're going to have to nurture ourselves a little bit, guide ourselves through it, and make sure that we kind of get out on the other end. So after 12 years of working in the self-improvement space where I've helped people navigate changes, sometimes it's related to injury, sometimes it's related to accidents, but baseline is that everyone that I've kind of worked with in the past couple of years have had to undergo some kind of a change in their lives. But the rewards on the other side from making these changes is so much bigger, yeah? So if you're feeling scared, overwhelmed, fear of failure, that just means that whatever you're trying to do is going to have a significant impact on your life. So the reason behind this is when you show up wholeheartedly and you start doing the thing that you've been feeling like you need to do for a very long time. My idol, Brené Brown, she describes this so well. But when you put yourself on the line and you show up vulnerably here right now, and you create this like genuine connection with yourself and those around you, you share the things that are scary to you, your reward in the other end is going to be so much bigger. So where to start? If you are on the cusp of making any big changes for yourself, make sure to start small. Break it down into tiny bits that seem somewhat doable for you. Here I am, I'm recording this episode. Like I said, my heart is racing. It's still racing, and I think I'll do a couple of more episodes before I can start sitting here calmly in front of you. Well, I'm recording this with the support of a script. As you can tell, I'm looking down on my computer screen to help me remind me of what I'm telling next. Maybe sometimes in the future I'll be able to do this fluently by heart, but until then, I'm making this doable for myself with a script in front of me. I'm also recording this on my makeshift camera setup, and I left a lot of room for improvement in this production. I won't be perfect from the first episode, and that's a-okay. I do hope that I've made some compromises so the sound is decent and you can kind of get the context of this podcast. But my idols, the ones that I look up to, they've been doing this for 10 years. And last week, I went back in their archives and I found some of their first episodes, and that kind of inspired me to start taking imperfect actions, because man, have they come a far way since they started about 10 years ago. Okay, so if you're still listening, thank you so much for tuning in. And if there is one thing that I can leave you with is make sure to do that hard thing. The reward in the other side of those hard things that we push ourselves through are so much bigger. Okay, make sure you start taking small, imperfect actions, because no one is going to be a master from their very first time. Make sure to break this down into something that takes 5 minutes, something that you can do right now, because I want you to start while you're motivated. Have the best day and do the things that scare you.